cause of death unknown. Camino and Dr. Nola Say was unable to find the cause of an illness in Clone Trooper Tup. In a desperate attempt to save his friend's life, Fives located and removed a tumor from Tup's brain with the help of medical droid AZ-3. Immediately following the procedure, Tup died, and Fives was placed under arrest. Now the tumor is the only hope to finding answers for Tup's mysterious illness.
Oh, greetings once again, Bucketheads. Mavar Tigar. Welcome to our 223rd incredibly investigative episode of Mandovision. I am your host, Nargai Tom, and thank you so much for checking out this small, independent Star Wars podcast. We're so glad you're here. Reach out to us on social media. We're at Mando_Vision on Twitter and Instagram. You can email the show, mandovisiontom@gmail.com. Make sure to like, subscribe, follow, and share this show with all the Mandalorians in your covert. All right, Buckethead Nation, how are you doing? I hope you're enjoying our rewatch of Season 6 of Star Wars: The Clone Wars, because it's been something else to kind of come back to these episodes now. A lot of you out there are aware of the premise of the rewatch series is I'm the one rewatching them for the first time since they originally aired. So touching base with these episodes has been enlightening in many regards. Like I remember the episodes by and large, but being able to look at the material now with sort of new eyes, if you will, has been a very rewarding process. So going through these episodes since season 1 has been a delight, and now that we're here in season 6, a season tragically cut short, where they're really raising the stakes of the stories they're telling and putting the, just kind of like pulling the layers back, kind of peeling that prequel era Star Wars onion and getting some real substance out of it. It's really great stuff. My biggest criticism of the Star Wars prequel films has always been that they're just sort of bookends. And I want that material that's in the middle. And this is that juicy middle. It's that the center of the burger that's oh so tasty and flavorful. And I'm not making myself hungry. But I think you all know what I'm getting at here with that. So here we are in the thick of this 4-episode arc that's going into the inhibitor chip. It's kind of alluding to the idea that someone might figure out about Order 66 ahead of schedule. So we're getting into some really deep mythology stuff here for Star Wars, and the idea that a clone is on the verge of uncovering the massive conspiracy and the role in which they will play in it is just really compelling Star Wars. And I'm a big fan of this arc, and it's not until, well, I think by the end of this episode, we get the feeling that this will have a tragic ending, and there's a lot of things that don't sit well with me on that one, because I am a big fan of Fives, and it just feels like it's not going to be a good ending for Fives. Spoilers. Sorry. for a show that's almost an episode that's almost 10 years old. So it's going to be fun to talk about this one. So I'm ready to get into it. If you guys are, let's go ahead and dive into the episode. We'll get our particulars out of the way right now. So go ahead. No, go ahead. Whatever. This is Star Wars The Clone Wars Season 6, Episode 3, Fugitive. Original air date March 7th, 2014. Directed by Danny Keller. Written by Katie Lucas. Our primary cast for this week: D. Bradley Baker is the Clone Troopers. Ben Diskin is AZ3. Gwendolyn Yao is Nala Se. Tassa Valenza is Shaq T. Corey Burton is Lord Tyrannus. Tom Kane is our narrator. And they do a great job. I'll just leave it at that. I love this. I love this arc. It's so good. Our plot this week: Tup's body is transported back to Coruscant, where it is to be examined by the Chancellor's personal physician, while Fives furtively investigates his death with the help of a droid. Not just any droid, AZ3. Come on, guys. AZ3 absolutely killing it in this arc. In particular, his survival modes come in very, very handy. And I don't know. If you come out of this arc and you're not a big fan of AZ3, what are you even doing here? That droid kicks. And I love it. So, yeah, our Jedi fortune cookie for this week: when in doubt, go to the source. And listen, I'm a fan of that idea too. Because, again, this episode kind of becomes, I don't want to say like a crime noir kind of thing necessarily, but I love the investigative aspects of this episode. Fives kind of getting in, running around Tapalca City, getting into things, looking at data. Him and AZ3, just crushing it as far as, like, you know, little PI team. Basically, it's a fun concept. I would watch a show that is Fives and AZ3 just running around investigating conspiracies within the Republic. It would have been an amazing series. It's a lost opportunity, friends. All right. Well, that being said, let's just go ahead, get into the episode in particular. You know what that means. It is time. Strap on your buckets. Let's go.
I want this specimen and all the data prepared for transit to the Jedi Temple.
The Chancellor said the tumor and data was to be sent directly to the medical facility on Coruscant, not the Jedi Temple.
And it will get there. But after the Jedi have run an analysis on it first.
I protest. I must personally deliver the tumor to the Chancellor as ordered.
You can protest all you want. My word is final.
So there's Nala Se doing the Nala Se things that we've seen these past few episodes, existing to keep the conspiracy unknown, right? Doing what she believes she has to do to honor the terms of their employment. You know, obviously Nala Se knows a lot of what's going on and what's to come, and it's sort of interesting the layers of deception involved in the Kaminoan relationship with the New Republic. So it's all, I love all this stuff. I think it's all very, very super interesting. You know, they keep referencing the deal struck with Sifo Dyas, but they report to Tyrannus, who reports to Sidious, who, you know, like there's so many levels of deception in this, revealed in this arc, that it's fascinating to kind of dive into and begin to kind of see the inner workings of how the machinations, the complexity of all of Sidious's plans that he has in play here, and sort of the manipulation of the Kaminoans is paramount to it, because now he's got them working against the New Republic, who's paying their fees basically for this clone army. It's just wild stuff when you start to kind of just dive into the complexity of it all. I mean, it's a lot. There's so much going on, and I wish they would have had the opportunity to sort of spend more time kind of breaking down these different relationships and I don't know, like different lines of deception, right? You know, like how did this originate? You know, obviously it originates through Sifo Dyas, but how much do the Kaminoans realize that Sifo Dyas was sort of a pawn of Sidious at that point? You know, it's who, again, through Tyrannus as his agent. You know, it's all just, I love it all. It's the complexity, the duplicitousness of it all. the wheels within wheels that Palpatine's playing. He's playing 3D chess, and the rest of the Republic and the Jedi are playing checkers. It's something else to behold. That is for certain. But Shaak Ti puts her foot down, and the Jedi are gonna get their chance to examine this corrupted chip that was in Tup, and that's like the real danger that Nala Se has to try and get ahead of, because if the Jedi analyze that chip and find out what it's actually there to do, and not just, they really hammer home in this episode that the inhibitor chip is to keep the clones from being too aggressive, keeping them more docile and open to orders, right? Like that's something that goes back to what was said in Attack of the Clones when we're first being introduced to the clones, when Kenobi's on the tour of the facility, that they can't have that fierce independent streak that Jango Fett had. So like this inhibitor chip is for that. But there's also something else going on there. They neglect to mention that part of it, but they keep hammering home that like, hey, these clones need to have this chip or they're not going to be a loyal, orderable army. And it's, again, they don't dive into it too deeply. The notion that the clones are somewhat restrained and altered because of this chip. Fives seems to hint at it a lot and seems to want to get into it a little bit more. But they it's Star Wars, and they never pull that particular thread too hard. They just kind of tug on it enough so we know it's there, and that allows us to have these sort of conversations amongst ourselves as fans, which I think is really, really fun. And that's a nice element of it too. And there's a big thread that they sort of skirt around a little bit, but that's not until the end of the episode. So and if you've watched the episode, you know exactly where I'm going to go with it. So, but we'll talk about that at the end. So Shaak Ti puts her fist down. Nala Se, not a fan of it, and then like Nala Se, like not even trying to be like clever, just waits till Shaak Ti turns her back and just starts switching cases around, with the help of a droid. And I'm just like, Shaak Ti, come on, you are getting punked right now. Like, what are you doing? What are you doing? Like, I'm going to turn my back on that Kaminoan. Like, you can't trust that Kaminoan. What are you doing? Anyways, she turns her back, and the Kaminoan does what that Kaminoan's going to do. Switches the chips around. Meanwhile, our good friend Fives has got bigger problems ahead, as does AZ3. So let's go ahead and see their encounter in the hallway. Now, Fives is under the impression he's just got to go pass a test, and then he's being sent to the 5-0 first. AZ3 has news for him.
AZ3.
Hello, ARC Trooper Fives. I regret that we were unable to heal your friend.
Yeah, me too.
Are you going to be reprogrammed as well?
Nah, AZ, I'm going back to the front.
That is not what I heard. I heard your mind was going to be wiped, and that you would be reassigned here and placed on sanitation detail. We can still be friends, assuming we both remember each other after our memories have been erased.
So that changes things, and these Kaminoan clone troopers that just sort of allow this conversation to happen. Like maybe they should have their guns more at the ready, because the idea that Fives is just willingly going to go and have his memory erased is laughable at best. And I enjoy this escape. AZ3 and Fives on the run after they beat down some. Well, AZ3 doesn't really beat down anybody, but Fives does. And that begins our action-packed escape from Topeka City, but not before they go back to the room where Fives just was, the cell that he was just in, and they discover that Nala Se switched the containers, that she in particular is keeping Tups's tumor with her, with the corrupted chip with her, so that she can deliver it to Palpatine. She's going to be given. She's giving the runaround to Shaak Ti. Shaak Ti's now got like an empty case or a dummy sample. I don't know what's in that case exactly, but it's not what Shaak Ti thinks is going to be in there. So now the possession of Tups's chip is in Fives' custody, and specifically AZ3's custody, and that launches them to cause a diversion. Right? They steal a shuttle. They're trying to escape. When in actuality, it's a diversion so that they can circle back to Topeka City and investigate, going to the source like our Jedi fortune cookie says. And this is when you get the fun moment with AZ mentioning his various survival modes, and one of them is to turn himself into like something of a miniature speeder bike kind of thing that Fives is able to take from the seas around Topeka City back to the city itself, while the Topeka City forces monitor a shuttle that they are no longer in. So, pretty effective plan by our ARC Trooper Fives, and yeah, it's good stuff. I'm here for all of it. So now I want to go ahead and cut to a conversation that Nala Se has with Count Dooku, aka Lord Tyrannus. And let's check it out right now.
Lord Tyrannus, you summoned me.
Prime Minister Lama Su tells me there has been a complication. What has happened to the inhibitor chip?
It was stolen by a renegade clone.
What does this clone know?
Nothing as of yet. He's just a soldier after all. However, he was a friend to the clone which malfunctioned.
This behavior is unsettling. First the malfunctioning clone, and now a renegade. Are you certain these soldiers will live up to your design in the end?
I am certain. The malfunction to the inhibitor chip is an aberration.
And how do you explain the renegade?
I'm afraid the Jedi have inspired creative thinking in some of the clones. That is the cause of this type of divergent behavior.
Will this interfere with Protocol 66?
No, I am certain of that.
Find the renegade clone immediately, and make sure you recover the chip. The true nature of the inhibitor chip must not be discovered by the Jedi.
Yes, Lord Tyrannus.
So there it is again. And as they discussed in the last episode, they were very specific that Sifo Dyas wanted Protocol 66 to exist to put rogue Jedi in their place. So again, the levels of deception here are of interest, because do the Kaminoans suspect all these Jedi could go rogue at any minute? Is that the impression they're under from this protocol, or do they suspect something else? Because you would think that from that conversation that what Dooku is implying is supremely significant to what's going on here. And again, maybe the Hood is obscuring the idea that the Kaminoans realize that Lord Tyrannus and Count Dooku are the same person. Is that part of the deception as well? I don't know. I mean, again, it's one of the quirks of the Star Wars galaxy is that you throw on a hood and a cloak and nobody knows who you are. And it's like Superman and Clark Kent wearing glasses. It's one of those sort of things that it doesn't seem like it'd be that big a deal in the real world. Like, oh no, there's my buddy Mike with a cloak on. Okay, cool. You're not like, hey, who's that cloaked man? It looks like my buddy Mike, but isn't. And, it's one of those things. So I have some questions that it feels like they don't know that Dooku and Tyrannus are the same person. Because again, then that you would think the Kaminoans would kind of deduce, like, well, why are we communicating with the leader of the Separatists for the army that they're fighting against? Now, again, the Kaminoans are driven by, well, we're not entirely certain what they're driven by: scientific advancement, or the gobs of money that they're making from the Republic, and possibly from the Separatists, if that's the case, by getting this information. But it seems to be separate, that they don't realize that Tyrannus and Dooku are one and the same, and that by reporting to them that they're doing anything wrong except honoring the will of Sifo Dyas, who initiated the contract. Again, I'm curious. I'd love to know more about all of that. And I've been racking my brain trying to remember if they get to any of this in the Count Dooku Jedi Lost story they did. I think it was it an audiobook first, and then they made it into a novel? I can't remember exactly. It's a great story, and it highlights, it sort of foreshadows a lot of this stuff. But I don't think they get into any of these specific details. But my memory is not as good as it used to be, so that's something to consider. All right, let's check back in and see where Fives and AZ3 and their investigation is right now. All right, so here we go. Let's go ahead and check it out. This is Fives and AZ3 in the Genetic Hall of Records.
This is the Genetic Records Hall. It contains data on the original DNA of every being we have ever cloned. We will compare the tumor's DNA versus that of Jango Fett, the original donor. If any tumor like this has been noted before, we will find it. The tumor, please. Nothing.
What?
The sample doesn't match anything found in the Jango Fett genotype. Furthermore, it is not even completely organic. It is foreign to the body. Someone implanted it there.
An implant? You mean this isn't an accident? Someone did this to Tup?
Precisely.
All right, so their presence in the genetics records hall does not go unnoticed. Shakti and her forces close in and try to apprehend Fives in AZ3, and you know they want Fives alive, sunblasts only, that sort of thing. It's happening, but Fives eludes them. Remember, they're not just dealing with another clone trooper. You know, Fives is Ark. He's advanced Republic Commando, right? And he's got the skills, and yeah, he makes his escape. So he and AZ3. Crawling through the ductwork here in Topeka City, kind of reevaluating what they've just learned here. I like this sequence. I'm going to play it again because Fives makes a very sound deduction, and I like this moment a lot.
Did you get all the information you needed?
Mostly. We know that the tumor is a foreign material and was implanted for an unknown reason. However, there is still so much we do not know about it. For example, at what stage was it introduced to Clone Tup? And why?
What is this thing? Why would someone put it in Tup?
I believe this is an organic chip built out of cells.
What's it for?
I do not know.
Thanks. I need to find out if what was in Tup's head is in mine.
We have already done a scan, and...
But it was missed in Tup, and it could have been missed in me too. You have to take it out.
we cannot be 100% sure if the chip is even there.
I know it's there.
It is a dangerous surgery.
Look, you got it out of Tup, you can get it out of me.
He died after I removed the chip. Maybe it is connected. You may die too.
It's a chance I have to take. I trust you.
All right. I will do it. Let us go to a sterile facility.
So this is a big move by Fives right here to go into his own head. So he's has so much belief that this wasn't an isolated incident. This isn't just happening to Tup. This could be happening to the rest of his brothers out there. That there's some, again, he's beginning to sense the conspiracy around the clones. That there's something far more sinister going on with all of them than they have ever been able to think of, right? Like, again, the idea, this is all new to the clones. They maybe have been aware that their behaviors and things like that have been more modified and more controlled, but the idea of an implant in there is something that they were not privy to. So this is something of a big revelation for Fives, and his decision to have it removed because he saw what it did to Tup when it became corrupted and malfunctioning. Again, he's gathering evidence of this conspiracy, but at the same time, I think he's also trying to hedge his bets that this thing could go wrong in him too and make him kill a Jedi, and he doesn't want to do that. You know, he doesn't want to turn against the Republic. It's all about being a loyal soldier, doing his duty. These are like Five's primary objectives, kind of situation here, and this chip malfunctioning and making him go crazy would impair that ability, right? He would harm a general. He would commit treason against the Grand Army of the Republic. So he makes the decision to let AZ3 do the surgery, get the chip out of him, and I mean, listen, spoilers, it goes well. They get the chip out. Now they have a healthy chip in their possession to compare to the chip that malfunctioned in Tup. And that is big evidence here. It's like if Nala Se has sweat glands, she's got to be sweating profusely from every part of her body that would produce sweat. I don't want to get into Kaminoan physiology. No, thank you. Don't want to take that class. So it's a big move, and this gives a lot of ammunition to Fives in the notion that there's something going on here that the Kaminoans are wrapped up in, and that they're keeping from the Jedi, that they're keeping from the Republic, and from the clones themselves. So it's a big move. And now, after the chip's been removed, it's time to figure out just when exactly are they getting implanted. Though before we get to that scene, I want to play. I just want to play the little bit here where Fives plans the next move here. He's coming out. He's up after the surgery. He seems to be doing just fine. AZ3 is a little concerned that something similar to what happened to Tup will happen to Fives now, but Fives looks no worse for wear. Definitely not like in any kind of condition like Tup was. So now it's time for the next part of Fives' plan. Again, he's beginning to see what's going on here. He's beginning to start to see the outline of a plan against the clones, of a plot against the clones. So he makes his next move.
I need to know if more clones than just Tup and I have these, and when we were implanted with them.
My analysis suggests implantation took place at the earliest stage of development. Most likely when you and Tup were only embryos.
Then we have to start there.
And that's just what they're going to do. So now Fives and AZ3 have to infiltrate the embryo chamber, right? And to do so, they have to go through one of those war game chambers, where the Daniel Logan from episode 2, where they were learning strategies and battle tactics and all those things. They had those funny little hats on their head. They go through a chamber like that that's being watched over by 2 Kaminoans, and Fives wants them to play it cool, play it normal. But AZ3 does not do a good job at that. And it's a pretty funny scene, I'm not going to lie. I laughed. But these Kaminoans, they let them pass, but they send an alert directly to Nala Se, who then begins to move her forces to that location ahead of Shaak Ti. But Shaak Ti is actually this time paying attention to what Nala Se is doing and decides it's time for her forces to maybe do a little following of their own. Meanwhile, Fives and AZ3 are scanning embryos. And we'll just go ahead and play the sequence. There's a lot of mechanical, computer automated chirping, whirling noises, but bear with me.
Nothing. I will now try a stage 3 embryo. There it is.
Try another.
Based on this data, I can calculate how many in this tree are altered.
It's a lot.
I can't believe it. They all have one. Don't move!
Okay, so now we're going to play the bit where Nala Se enters the room alone. I forget, she didn't have forces with her. She came alone to discuss the situation with Fives. And it's, well, listen, let's just go ahead and play the sequence. Go ahead. All right, you ready? Here we go.
Don't move!
Why are you doing this?
I know what you've done.
What is it that you think I have done?
How do you explain this?
That is a structural inhibitor chip, which is supposed to prevent you from being aggressive, like your source, Jango Fett. Jedi Master Sifo Dyas instructed us to implant them during your growth cycle.
The Jedi? The Jedi had this done to us?
It is not uncommon to have inhibitors placed in a clone.
I have analyzed this one, and apparently it has failed.
Up until this point, there has never been a problem.
Well, you have got a big problem now. Don't move!
All right, I want to pause it here because you only hear it a little bit on the audio, but if hopefully you rewatch the episode and you see what I see, which is Fives using the barrel of his blaster to sort of punch at Nala Se's face, and something about that I really enjoy, and he does it repeatedly in this final exchange here. Now that Shaak Ti's forces are in play, and again, you probably won't pick it up on the audio unless you know exactly what that sound is like. But I just love him just pushing at her with the barrel of that blaster. Something about that amuses me because she is so cold in these episodes with her in them. Again, not like we see her in Bad Batch, where she has obviously developed an affection for Omega. An affection on not more affection versus the little she has here. Doesn't necessarily mean that she's a changed being by any stretch, but she does seem to have some sort of consideration for Omega's well-being. Maybe it's more purely based on scientific purposes, but it's at least better than the cold, calculating indifference that she shows to the clone troopers here. All right, let's go ahead and play this now. There's a big bit in here that I want to get into, and you know what it is if you've watched the episode, but here we go.
Drop your weapon.
Master Jedi, I know what's going on. I have the evidence. The Jedi instructed that inhibitor chips be implanted in us at birth, but Tup's malfunctioned. That's what made him lose control.
Where is the evidence?
I have it right here. As you can see, the chip taken from Clone Trooper Tup is black and rotting, indicating a malfunction of some sort.
What caused the malfunction?
It doesn't matter. The fact is, Tup's chip malfunctioned, and it drove him insane. These chips have to be removed. Otherwise, the entire Republic army could be compromised.
There is no proof of that. This is an isolated incident. Besides, when you removed Trooper Tup's chip, he died.
Well, that's not gonna happen to the rest of us.
And how do you know that?
Because I removed mine.
Here is Clone Trooper 5's chip. As you can see, there is no sign of malfunction in either him or the chip.
By removing your chip, you are a threat. Master Jedi, we must terminate this trooper immediately.
Okay, I'm going to pause it right there because, again, so far what they're saying is accurate. There's no deception in play here on Nala Se's part. Yes, there's more to the chip than we're being told at this point, but they don't seem to realize that. Right now, Fives is more indignant over the fact that they have this inhibitor chip and that their behavior is being sort of modified and controlled to an extent. That's the basis of Five's outrage at this point. Not suspecting that there's more going on here. Shaak Ti, much the same, has no idea that there's more going on here than the behavior modification chip that had been established back in episode 2 itself. But we as the audience know from all the other scenes in these episodes, the conversations with Tyrannus and Sidious, that these chips are also paramount to Order 66. And, we're beginning to realize that they tell us very explicitly that the two things are very much connected. That was all glossed over in episode 2. But, they didn't mention that on Kenobi's tour. No, sir, they did not. But let's go ahead and hear Shaak Ti's response to all of this.
I am not a piece of hardware. I'm a living being.
You were created in our laboratories. You are Kaminoan property.
Correction. Technically, he is property of the Republic.
That does not change the fact that he is a danger and must be terminated.
I will stop right there because you know exactly where I'm going. You know it. It's what this entire section of the podcast, this entire Star Wars Clone Wars rewatch series is predicated on. The Republic has a slave army, and Shaak Ti says it right there. Property. Now, she says it with a bit of a twinge of, I don't know if, I don't know what word I want to use here. She says it with a specific tone that maybe she doesn't necessarily agree with the word, but she doesn't have a better one for it, that's for sure. So again, the Jedi who will fall don't even realize the noose has been put around their necks since the start of this war because they are using a slave army, and that goes against everything the Jedi are supposed to be about. So the fact that she says that, and again, she says it with a certain tone that makes me think that she's not a fan of the word either, and maybe not a fan of the clone army in general. But she is a general in the Grand Army of the Republic. She does employ clones and send them to their deaths. It's just one of those moments, where you just realize that the Jedi can't escape their fate. There's just no hope of it, right? Even if they became aware of Order 66, look at how much darkness they've shrouded themselves in the Clone Wars. And again, Sidious probably had 7 backup plans in case something went wrong with Order 66, in case something went wrong with the Clone Army. But again, I think this is this is the hand he feels is the strongest of all the different plans he probably has in place. So he has to protect that. But the idea that the Jedi don't seem to understand anything that's happening around them is mind-boggling to me. And again, highlights why their fall was almost preordained to happen. All right, let's go ahead and close this out.
I believe that's for me to decide. Fives, you are coming with me to Coruscant. I think it's time you told your story to the Chancellor.
Master Jedi, I beg you to reconsider.
The Chancellor wanted all the data on top to be sent to Coruscant. We're sending the data, the tumor, and Fives along with it.
Then I am going with you.
As you wish, Doctor.
Thank you for believing in me, General.
It is not a matter of belief, Fives. It is simply the right thing to do.
It looks like you got what you wanted.
Thanks to you. I'll see you on the other side.
The other side of what?
Droids.
All right, so that's the end of the episode, and I love the irony of Shaak Ti saying it's the right thing to do, even though I just said I have a slave army. That makes me laugh. That's funny stuff. That's comedy gold right there, my friends. And again, they're playing this hopeful, optimistic music, but we all know what they just said ain't good, and that's, oh yeah, we're gonna take Fives, this guy who's beginning to uncover a conspiracy, to have a conversation with Chancellor Palpatine, the orchestrator of said conspiracy. This can't go well. And the fact that Fives gets on this gurney to be toted away, and then when the next episode starts, we see him strapped to it. My friends, that is a recipe for tragedy right there. Strapped to a gurney, Nala Se still in play because she's coming with them now. She has to do her duty to protect the secrets, right? And a meeting with the orchestrator of everything. Fives, this has tragedy written all over it for you, my friend. I'm so sorry because I love you so much. Oh boy, what a great episode! This it's awesome. It has the whole investigative process that they do in here. All of it is standout, spectacular stuff. I really dig this one. Again, it's the third part of 4. And it looks like, again, they play this hopeful, optimistic music. Like, oh yeah, you're going to go tell Chancellor Palpatine and he's going to take all the chips out. Man, no, my friends, that will not be happening. Just like the deflector screens will still be operational when your friends arrive, okay? It's not good. Fives, you are in so much trouble, dude. Do not go to Coruscant. Do not go to 000. Avoid. Oh boy. All right. Any hoot. A great episode. I love this arc. It's fantastic stuff. I give this episode 9. It's 9 buckets, baby, because I love the procedural, the investigative process of it all. I love Fives and AZ3 as a team. I'd watch a show with them. It would have been phenomenal. Make it happen. Make a comic book of it. Fine by me. I'll read it. And I think that's where we're going to stop for the day, folks, because this is a good stopping point for our Star Wars The Clone Wars rewatch podcast. I want to thank you all so much for checking out the episode, for supporting the show as you always do. Buckethead Nation is the best fan base in all of Star Wars. I'm so glad that you are here. Check us out on social media. We're at Mando_Vision on Twitter and Instagram. Email the show, mandovisiontom@gmail.com. Make sure to like, subscribe, follow, and share the show with all the Mandalorians in your covert. If your podcasting platform does reviews, sweet 5-star reviews are the best kind, and they really do help the small independent podcasts like us stand out, not get lost in the shuffle of all those corporate podcasts with all their highfalutin commercials and advertisement money. Get out of here. We don't have time for that on this podcast. I have to get on my soapbox and talk about the slave army of the Republic and how it leads to the downfall of the Jedi. I don't have time for commercials. So get over it. Sorry, that's a bit of a tirade. I apologize. Anyways, my friends, we'll be back next week to wrap up this arc. This is the Mandovision Podcast. I am your host, Nargai Tom. And Star Wars fans, you're the best. Keep it up. Be great Star Wars fans. Be awesome. Be amazing. Continue to be supportive of each other and everyone's ideas. And take care of yourselves and take care of each other. It's a strange time in the world in general, but it seems like that's just the constant state of affairs. But again, take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. Check in on your friends. Maybe you haven't heard from them in a while. And make sure they're doing okay too, because it's the dark times are upon us and we live in them. So we got to take care of each other. All right, friends? All right, let's go. We'll be back next week. Remember, this podcast can only end one way. This is the way.
This is the way.
This is the way. This is the way.
I suppose you'll be heading out.
I'm not.
You should.
It's against the creed. I gave you my word. I'm with you until we both fall.
You really buy into that bantha fodder?
I do.